Hello, it's Tanya here from Where Violets Whisper. Once again, I'm down my sewing shed, my favourite place to be. And today I wanted to talk to you about something which I have a bit of a problem with. And if I'm honest, most sewers I know do too. And that is our stash of fabric that we have secreted away in every cupboard and drawer in the house. And also the amount of scraps we have of fabric that are left after we've done our projects. So last year I set myself a bit of a challenge, which I called the Scrap Fabric Challenge. And the first part of it was to organise all my scraps, which I did in these plastic kitchen bags. And honestly, I found that so helpful because it meant I got everything, all the fabrics, all the scraps of that fabric together in one place so I could see what I'd got. And then the second part of the challenge was to actually try and use some of the scraps up. So recently I've been having a lot of fun making some little patchwork pouches. As you can see, some of them are quite structured, you know, like grid patterns, and some of them are a little bit more arty. Like that zip. So I thought it'd be really good fun if I showed you how I did it. So today we're going to work through making this pouch, and I will do a step-by-step guide and show you exactly how I did it, and then maybe you could make one yourself. So let's get started.
I went for a theme of vintage florals for my patchwork, so I chose some scraps I thought worked together and laid them out. I then decided on a plain fabric for the main body of the pouch and a contrasting zip. I started sewing the scraps together one by one using a running stitch. I continued until my patchwork was the right size. As you'll see, I actually ended up adding in another scrap because it wasn't big enough originally. I then overlocked it to finish off the edges just because some of my fabrics were a bit prone to fraying. That's what it looks like with that extra little scrap of fabric in it. Next, it was time to lay it out with the red surrounding fabric. The fabric was cut to the right size, then I simply sewed the top and bottom parts onto the patchwork. My zip was 8 inches, so I aimed for a fabric square of 10 by 10 inches. Once that was done, I gave it a good press and it ended up looking like this. I needed 2 bits of backing fabric the same size for the interior. As you can see, I've also pieced them together because I'm using up my scraps. With this backing fabric laid down face up, I then place my zip on it. You'll see I've made the fabric enough so that there's space on the side of the zip. I've found that works much better for me than having the zip just fit the fabric. Next, I placed my front piece face down on top of the zip. I'm basically creating a zip sandwich. I then carefully pin it in place, ready to sew. And very importantly, I changed my presser foot to a zipper foot. I just double check that the zip is going to look how I want when I sew it before I start. And then I get started sewing. The reason that I like the fabric a little bit bigger on the side of the zips is because sometimes it has a tendency to move when you're sewing, and that little bit of extra fabric just gives you a bit more leeway. Don't forget, at some point here you're going to have to, there we go, you're going to have to move the zip so that you can sew the whole length. So this is what it looks like when we've got the first half of the zipper sewn in. I would press it at this point. Press at the top on both sides, front and back. Then we repeat the process. The next piece of backing fabric is laid face up, the zip goes on top, and finally the outer fabric is placed face down. We've created a second zip sandwich. We pin that, we take it to the machine again, and we sew. We now have all our pouch fabric assembled. Remember to press again at this point. Then we need to unzip the zipper to halfway across. That's really important. As you can see, I have just flipped the fabric so that the outer is with the outer and the backing with the backing. I'm now checking that the zip is in the right place, which is ends together and folded towards the outer fabric. This will determine how it sits in the end. Now I'm going to go ahead and either clip or pin things into place. It's up to you what your preference is, how you do that. And make sure to leave a space on the backing fabric, which is where I'm going to be able to turn it inside out. I also showed you there that I have actually drawn on where I want to sew. I've done this in that pen that disappears with heat, but it's just, if you're getting started, it's a really good way to make sure that you sew in exactly the right place. So as you can see, I've sewn all the way round and I've come back to that backing fabric and I've ended leaving the gap. So that's it, my pouch is sewn together. Obviously, because I had the extra fabric on the either side of the zip, I now need to cut that off because we don't want to end up with it really bulky. Cutting the corners as well to make it easier to turn them inside out, and the other side. So we come to the moment of truth. I'm going to turn this pouch inside out and we'll see whether I've got it right or not. While I remember, the reason we opened the zipper earlier was so that now you can get into both halves of the pouch and turn it the right way out. If you forget to do that, you won't actually be able to complete this stage. I'm using a pair of scissors here to poke out those corners so they're as square as they can be. And then I'm just going in with my fingers to do the backing. I love this bit because it's the first time we get to really see what the pouch is going to look like. Now all we need to do is sew that bottom bit of the backing fabric to close up that gap that we left. And then we press it again one last time to make it look as professional as we possibly can before we put the backing fabric into the pouch itself and we can see our finished item. We bag it out so it looks as flat and square as possible. Yep, just pull any bits out until they're just right. And that's how it looks. I really like the contrast with the red and green and that sort of grey stripe inside. I decided to finish it off with a great big tassel that I had made. It's just an extra flourish that really personalises it. You could use a pom-pom or any other thing that you liked, or just leave it plain. It's up to you. The possibilities are endless.
So that's it. We've now got a really cute little patchwork pouch, which we could use for all sorts of things. I really hope you enjoyed watching me make this pouch and that you're inspired to do something similar yourself. If you are, don't forget to subscribe, then you'll be able to find it again really easily. As for me, I'll see you next time. Bye.